encouraging violence on the right against those other people. There is no such ideology on the left. It just doesn't exist. In fact, our movement is desperately, ferociously fighting to preserve rule of law and democracy. Battling liberalism is the central undertaking of our collective project. And we've seen millions and millions and millions of people this year, tens of millions, protest legally without any incident. It's incredible how many people have been on the street this year with no incidents of any kind. Mm-hmm. All of this is we're channeling our frustrations in the way that you do in a democracy.
Keep listening to WCPT 820. Because facts matter.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hey everybody, how are you doing tonight? I don't know I don't know how to manage my emotions anymore, and I don't know that it's going to get any better with our guest in studio because so much has happened. I was mentioning as we were speaking before the show that I think that over the last couple of weeks there have been two instances where it's become glaringly obvious that we have been militarily occupied, and there's no restraints anymore for any of the agents who are in our city. Doesn't matter what court rulings are, doesn't matter what previous legal necessities are in place. I am talking about the incident that happened a couple weeks ago that you've all seen, and I want to talk about her career and what has led to her leadership in her community. We're talking to Alder Jessie Fuentes in studio. Hey, Alder, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
I should ask you, there's a reason I gave you water. I ask people how they're doing, and then I regret it because I force people to lie, right? Or if they're telling the truth, right? I mean, you're here and you're working to lead a community and provide, guidance and support and protection. So that's why I gave you water. Is I also ask people, are you staying hydrated?
Yeah, I am staying hydrated. I appreciate the water.
Absolutely. So I want to start getting to know you. Hi to our listeners right now, of course, listening on WCPT and KKNW 1150 in Seattle, Washington. Thank you to our sponsors, Source Solar, Minocqua Brewing Company, and Pride Coffee Roasters. We'll talk more about them in a little bit because I know that your time is valuable and we have a lot to cover today. So I want to get to know you. Where did you grow up, my friend?
I'm born and raised Humboldt Park. I grew up on Kedzie on the 1400 block, right across the street from the park. I was extremely lucky to have a lot of great neighbors, siblings. We grew up in a, tight-knit community. My father moved into Humboldt Park, so did my mother and my grandmother at a time when a lot of people didn't want to live there, right? This is a community in the 60s and the 70s where landlords were setting their buildings on fire to do arson for profit, right? And so I'm lucky to be born and raised in a community that understands resistance, that understands community organizing, that understands how to bring people together.
One of the first people that comes to mind for me is someone who's become very important in my life, which is Melissa Dupre of the Humboldt Dupres. And so there is that energy of resistance and community there. So where did you go to high school?
Well, my mom sent me to Carl Shores High School because it was a time where families were really worried about what it would mean to send their kids to Roberto Clemente Community Academy. I always told my mom she shouldn't have sent me to Shores neither because I got into my fair share. It's been told before, but I was expelled from CPS for getting into my first school fight. My mother suffered a great deal from substance abuse, and I had a peer sort of poke fun at that. And I was 16 years old. I didn't have the social and emotional skills to sit in a peace circle and work that out. I did what the neighborhood taught me.
Yes.
And, I got into my first school fight. At that time, CPS was still practicing zero tolerance policies. And so I was expelled with no right to return at the age of 16. From Chicago Public Schools. So I went to a small alternative high school right after that called Pedro Albizu Campos Puerto Rican High School. It's on Division Street in between the two largest Puerto Rican steel flags you'll find anywhere in the world.
Yes.
And it was there where I became a community organizer. I learned how to rally people up. I became an organizer around housing rights, tenant rights. It's really where I learned that I can be a leader. So super grateful for that small high school that took me in, didn't judge me despite some of the decisions I made, and saw me for everything that was right with me.
I'm just trying to think of Schurz. I hesitate to ask people what year they graduated from high school. I don't know if you want to share. So I graduated from Lane Tech in 1989. So so at the time there was a lot going on with fights between Lane and Schurz. I mean, kids would get on the bus and go down to Schurz, vice versa. I mean, there was a lot going on, and I assume that continued. And it's plus you're going into a community that you're not a part of, which is hard too.
That's right. All my friends, family, they're Humboldt Park, and. You're going to sort of a school setting where not everyone you grew up with is in that place. You sort of lose that support network. But, I also didn't have it in the adults that were in the building, right? The school is so large.
Yeah.
Counselor caseloads are huge. It's hard to keep up with every single kid, right? And so I didn't have that sort of needed support that I needed in school. But I had it in community, and I definitely had it when I went to Albizu after my expulsion from Schurz. And it really taught me sort of like the importance of community and that sort of like communal care. We talk a lot about self-care. There's something beautiful about communal care.
Yes.
That really helped me sort of get past that hump. I graduated in 2003.
Okay. That's good. I mean, it's good that you've at a young age have known what you wanted to do for your community, for your neighbors, for people who need it the most, right? So, I mean, because a lot of us, like, I didn't come into this sort of political awareness. So I have a son with severe disabilities. That's what led me into the political arena more aggressively. I mean, I voted, but honestly, I was one of those people that didn't look down the ticket until I was like, wait a minute, we need services for kids who have mobility issues, intellectual challenges, right? So we all come to it at a different place. And so it's great that you found that, and also to give you support, right? As much as you support the community. So after high school, what was the path after that?
Yeah, I went to Northeastern. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, right? I spent a lot of time thinking I wanted to be a lawyer. I go into justice studies, criminology. I did a lot of organizing at the university. I am one of the original organizers that founded the Latino Cultural Center, Multicultural Center at the university. And I did an internship, and I learned very quickly that maybe being a lawyer wasn't for me, right? Because I can handle like tough situations, but what I can't do is like look at a family and be like, there's nothing else I can do, right? And I struggled with that during my internship. And so I was like, maybe being a lawyer is not the thing I want to do right now. So I rethought it. What I ended up doing was going into education. So I became the Dean of Students at Roberto Clemente Community Academy right after undergrad, because I wanted to ensure that young people didn't have that experience that I had at Schurz, right? If it wasn't for Albizu, and many young people don't land in spaces like that small alternative high school that I did, having an expulsion on your school record, and by the way, that also got me my juvenile record, because I was arrested at Schurz for that school fight.
Okay.
Not a lot of young people can recover from that.
No.
Right? That one decision can destroy people's lives and take them on a path that they can't really bounce back from. So I chose to go into education because I wanted young people who were growing up in a community like mine, who maybe had similar experiences, to have an adult that really understood the nuances. But more, it was important to me to undo some of the zero tolerance policies. So I led a lot of the restorative justice work at Clemente, and ultimately, we see those restorative practices now across the district, where young people are given the services that they need, mental health services, case management, taught restorative justice practices, and that we're doing preventative work and we're not reacting as a school system to young people. So I spent about 7 years in education, 6 of them at Clemente High School, and then 2 of them at my alma mater, Albizu Campus. And then COVID happened.
Oh, my God.
And we all remember COVID.
What?
Right?
Everything's so nebulous right now. Yeah.
But the people who I feel personally suffered the most were educators and students.
No, yeah.
Educators having to sort of grapple with what young people were going through a screen. Young people becoming socially isolated and not necessarily having that social development that they need and that they receive, right? By being in classrooms, engaging with peers, learning in collective spaces. And in my community in Humboldt, Hermosa, Belmont Cragen, there were so many families that were impacted by the virus. And we didn't have access to vaccines right away. Shoot, we didn't even have testing centers the way we needed to make sure that if people were feeling ill, they can determine, was it the flu, was it a cold, or was it COVID? Right. And so I decided to leave education altogether. to do some policy work. I had enough of like seeing young people suffer through a screen. So I started doing policy work for the Puerto Rican Cultural Center, particularly focused on COVID and making sure that we can get the resources we needed. And then I started doing some violence prevention work because we all know COVID happened, but homicide rates started to double and triple in many of our neighborhoods. And safety is super important for me. Safety with making sure we're providing resources to our community is even more important to me.
Right, which enhances safety.
That's right.
Yeah. So we have to go to the break, and I want to come back because you said something that I think a lot of people. So we have people who hate listen to the show, and their words that you use are like, oh my God, they roll their eyes and it's touchy feely to them. But I want to talk about restorative justice because that's come up before, and I don't think people hear it and they're kind of like, oh yeah, that sounds good, or I kind of get it. Let's talk a little bit about that as well because I think it's a big piece of what a lot of us are going through right now. We're talking to Alder Jessie Fuentes of remind me the ward.
26th. The
26th ward. And she's friends with the Melissa Dupre of the Humboldt Park Dupre's. I think she's coming in tomorrow, Friday. I have to double check. We are going to continue our conversation in a moment. Want to remind you that our text line is available. We'll open up the phone lines later, I think, in a little bit after we finish our interview. If anybody wants to call in, maybe we'll take some calls. But we do have the text line open. The Credo mobile phone and text line is 773-763-9278. We have the text line open if you want to reach out to us. You also get 25% off for 2 years at Credo Mobile with the code WCPT25. Credo Mobile, progressive phone company that is better for all people and the planet. Visit credomobile.com. Also remind you to visit Pride Coffee Roasters to find out where they're going to be at a market near you. And for a limited time, they have 10% off your order when you type in Drive Home 10 right there in the checkout. All those little things, those little cells that you fill in. I had my Rwanda coffee today. It's hints of dreamsicle and raisins. Very good. I like that a lot. Let's take a break here and continue our conversation with Alder Fuentes when we come back.
The Rick Smith Show.
What comes of all of this chaos? Because look, it's fun to watch. It's interesting to watch as they're literally falling on their face. What does it mean to us? How bad does it get for us? We, the working people of this country, who honestly don't have the kind of wealth to weather a storm, the ones who are going to probably lose our homes, to people like Donald Trump, who does have the wealth to weather the storm, or at least the credit.
The Rick Smith Show, weeknights at 7 on WCPT 820.
This is Tony Moray. I'm an estate planning lawyer who drafts living trusts and wills. Since the election, I've been hearing from my clients, many of them fellow WCPT listeners. And we all wonder, how did this happen and what can we do? The how is, of course, very complicated. My thoughts as regard to what we can do is simple but important. We need to take extra care of those we love. Having an estate plan using either a living trust or will can provide comfort in uncertain times like these. When the progressive values we hold dear are under attack, I feel we must make sure that our personal lives are secure and then work out from there. I've been drafting estate plans for my clients for over 30 years, and I will use all of that experience to help you. Please call me at 847-996-0496. My website is moreylawoffice.com. That's Morey spelled M-O-R-E-E. Again, the phone is 847-996-0496. There is no cost or obligation for our initial discussion. I look forward to speaking with you.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank Thank you for joining us as we continue our conversation with Alder Jessie Fuentes of the 26th Ward here in Chicago. We're going to talk a little bit more about why that name sounds familiar if you're not watching our Facebook live stream, because if you're watching, you're like, oh my God, that was the woman in the hospital who got handcuffed. I mean, like, that was insane. So let's take the path after, the work that you'd been doing in communities, getting involved in education, wanting to make sure that restorative justice, we were talking about restorative justice. So in 2019, 2020, I ran for state rep, and I was door knocking, and it was a firefighter's family, Democrats, progressives. It was wild because they were talking to me about how their school needed restorative justice, and I was like, "Am I in Norwood Park? Like, is this really happening in the 45th Ward?" I was actually in Gladstone, but for folks who don't understand restorative justice, can you explain to them what that means and why it's so important?
Absolutely. When people talk about restorative justice, the naysayers, the folks that just don't understand or want to believe in the concept, usually always sort of attack it at, well, you're abating accountability, right? And restorative justice is not that. In fact, we want people to be held accountable for the harm that they're committing. But what restorative justice really focuses on is not only the person that is sort of at fault for the harm that's committed, acknowledge that harm, but engage in a process of repair.
Right.
And that the people who are harmed are a part of that process. And the reason that that's so important is when we don't resolve for the trauma that's created by the harm, whether it's by an entity, an individual, a system, we begin to see responses and a reciprocal effect of the continuation of that trauma, right? Often, individuals who are perpetrators of violence were victims of violence. But no one engaged them in a process of healing so that they don't become perpetrators of violence themselves. And so when we think about restorative justice practices, it's, yes, there is accountability, and I believe in accountability. But it's about how do we take that individual who conducted the harm to understand the impact of that harm on their community. If I got into a fight with an individual, I harmed them, I can't imagine the impact that had on the mother who maybe had to see the physical and emotional damage that was caused to their child. I didn't just harm the individual I got into a fight with. I harmed their parent, maybe their siblings, their broader community. And unless we engage in a process of healing to seek understanding and to make commitments on how we repair that harm, those individuals can want to reciprocate violence. And then we have a different layer of issues in our community. And so restorative justice for me is important on many fronts. One, for the individual causing the harm to learn just how harmful it can be for communities so that they can have that sort of knowledge to rethink how they interact moving forward, how they respond to things moving forward. But that to show people we can engage in a process of healing with one another, and that is what makes our community safer. And that engaging in a process of healing doesn't mean you evade accountability.
Yes. And I feel like that needs to be repeated over and over again because people see it as evading accountability. I'm coming to this again. I think part of being a progressive or a liberal or whatever labels we want to use is being open to new concepts, to new information. Right. And I think understanding more about restorative justice or what leads somebody, whether it's because of trauma that they've experienced, and also to be able to gather that information, not individually, but also to say, look, here's someone from poverty, there's substance abuse, there was physical abuse, those kinds of things, and say, how do we, and that's what I think a lot of alders like you are trying to do in City Hall, and people aren't necessarily seeing that, are they?
No, and I think it's disheartening, right? Because when I look at my community or when I look at any one individual, I'm taking into account their entire ecosystem, all the things that are happening around them that sort of inform where that person is at in the moment. I did that a lot when I was working with unhoused individuals that were residing in the tent encampment in Humboldt Park. And, for a long time, individuals would tell me, well, just pick up those tents and move them somewhere else, right? And my response would always be, well, I would be causing more harm and more trauma than I am resolving anything. I need to account for all that has happened with this individual so that I can understand what's the best way to help them. There is not a one-size-fits-all model for anyone, any community, and we have to be able to account for people's lived experiences, their entire ecosystems, if we are truly going to help people the way the city should. It's why treatment, not trauma. It's why rapid rehousing. It's why restorative justice are so important, because these are frameworks that allow us to meet individuals where they are.
And so you said during COVID was where you were inspired, or that was the influence to make you decide to run for office. So tell us a little bit about this. I mean, was there a vacancy? Was this a alder you wanted to challenge? I can't remember because there was so much happening during COVID.
No, there wasn't a vacancy. So my predecessor, Roberto Maldonado, was still in the race. And, look, I worked precincts for Roberto Maldonado. I had supported him a ton on a lot of housing initiatives. Roberto had done a lot of great work in our community as it related to housing individuals who needed it, doing things to fight gentrification. He's one of the original sponsors of the 606 Demolition Deconversion Ordinance that we later turned into the Northwest Side Preservation Ordinance. But there was also the time he had spent in office that sort of also created a lens for him in which he wasn't seeing all the things that needed to be done. And we weren't sure, right? Was Roberto going to stay in the race? Was he going to retire?
Right.
When was he?
How long had he been in office?
12 years.
Okay.
And before that, he was our Cook County Commissioner. So Roberto had been a local elected representative in Humboldt Park for a long time. And we didn't understand fully what he was going to do. Roberto was a single father. It's been published in many different places. His mother and his wife had passed prior years, and he had young people he was really taking care of, and so we knew that the position was not his priority. Taking care of his kids was his priority, right? And so I decided to launch my candidacy, and I was open with him. Roberto knew it wasn't like this sort of situation where I'm running and I'm gonna go all out on the person that's currently holding the seat, because I do believe in all the work that Roberto did. And I also believed that our ward needed new representation and someone who can sort of work on the things that our residents were saying were important to them. Ultimately, in January, Roberto Maldonado drops out of the race, making it an open seat with 4 of us running. My opponent was, Julian Jumpin' Perez.
From Lane Tech.
From
All right,
Lane
then.
Tech.
Class of 89, I may add. Okay.
B96. You know what? My mom still bumps to his music, so it's all good.
Okay, I'm old on the Snickers.
And then Angie Gonzalez, who was the committee person at the time, and Kirk Ortiz. And I won my election. I avoided a runoff in a 4-way race.
You won it outright.
I won
Folks,
it outright.
in Chicago, you have to get 50 plus 1 in order to win. And if you don't, they take the top 2 vote getters and then do a runoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
what's interesting about my race is that I believe it came from the Julian Jumping Perez camp. I don't think it came from anywhere else. But, they sent out these nasty mailers. And that's just sort of the political reality. Look, if folks are going to run for office, you're going to have to deal with some terrible mailers. But this one was particularly terrible. Let me tell you, they put me behind bars, changed the color of my skin, made my eyes green like a demon. And they published my juvenile record and my early adult record.
Yeah, all right.
And they sent it out to 11,000 people across the ward. And I remember it's December, and I opened my mailbox. Is how I learned about it. The mailer was in there. And I remember thinking, how am I supposed to convince people that I'm the right one for the job?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to convince people that I'm qualified to do this? And I remember being at the polling location on Election Day and people bringing that mailer. And you could see that mailer from blocks away. I remember thinking, here it goes. It's going to be... I was convinced I might lose, right?
Of course.
And people would come up to me and they'd be like, this is exactly why I'm voting for you. Oh. Because not only do you have the community organizing experience, not only do you have multiple college degrees, but you understand the nuances of our neighborhood, so I trust you to fix it.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Was that from a candidate or from independent expenditure?
That was the FOP doing it on behalf of Julian Jumpin' Perez.
What? All right. Well, just to let you know, I'll tell you about my nasty mailers off the air. The audience is like, please, we don't hear it again. Yes, she's a terrible person. We get it. Mine were not an independent expenditure. It was directly from the candidate calling me a disgusting extremist who couldn't be trusted with the safety of women and girls in the cases of rape and incest. And I am a survivor. So So I get it. I get that standing on those. I get standing on those porches, seeing your face come out of that, and my skin kept getting darker in the male. Right?
Mine too.
I present as light skinned, and I was just like, oh, we're going there as a dem, as a social worker. Okay, all right. I'm not salty about it. We're
it's all right to be a little salty. I still talk about my mailers occasionally.
Yeah. Oh, you kidding me? That they're listening right now. They're listening right now, going, "Oh, enough." But here's the thing about that, right? Is that if we let it go, it means that we continue to let things like that slide, and they continue to move the line of what's acceptable. Yeah, that's why I demand accountability. FOP is going to be a little tougher doing that. Let's take a break here. We're talking to Alder Jessie Fuentes of the 26th Ward. And, of course, we are going to talk about the video scene around the world and many that have come out of Chicago just in the last 24 hours. Absolutely horrifying. I mean, I just can't believe this is – I mean, I can't believe this is my city. This is my country. These are our communities, our neighbors. Let's take a break here and continue our conversation. And I do want to catch up on some text because we got some really good texts coming in. 773-763-9278. We will open the phone lines during the last segment of this hour. So we look forward to hearing from you on WCPT 820 and 1150 KKNW.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Look for cloudy skies tonight with a low temperature of 56 degrees and east winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Thursday, sunshine with a high temperature of 67 degrees and southeast winds at 5 to 10. Friday, a couple of showers with a high temperature of 72 and south winds at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Saturday, scattered showers and storms with a high temperature around 72 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 61.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter. Around the Town, Chicago, with Al Besloff.
A little strange going on here. We have, I guess, no phone service right now, so I'm not going to give out that phone number of 773-763-9278 because evidently it's not going to work. We just can't take those calls, and today can't give away stuff, which means hopefully next week, if they pay their phone bill here, we'll be able to go on and do some.
Sunday afternoons at 1 on WCPT 820. WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
Union Strong Chicago continues to lead the way with progressive values and in preserving democracy. Your support of the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC efforts in Wisconsin and beyond strengthens the fight against MAGA Republicans. You can now purchase progressive beers like Labor Lager, Love Wins Fruited Sour, and the Resistance IPA in Chicago at Rogers Park Provisions, Diversity Beer, Wine, and Spirits in Lakeview, Park West Liquor, Wine, and Beer in Lincoln Park, Logan Square Liquors, and Tip Top Food and Liquors in Westtown. Visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com for all their Chicagoland locations. As always, no matter how bad our sports teams are, please drink responsibly.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Hi, everybody. Sorry for Alder Jessie Fuentes getting an earful during the breaks. Well, because here's the thing is that when you take on the challenge of running for office, everybody comes from a different place. And you are truly coming from a place of, I know what it's like to be in this community in Humboldt Park, what it's like to be disadvantaged. By the way, I want to tell you, disadvantaged in the sense that, you as a high school student, it's hard as a teenager to manage your emotions. Everything's on the surface. Everything's permanent. Everything's immediate, right?
That's right.
Right. So someone said, wow, zero tolerance in regards to your expulsion and your record. Wow, zero tolerance meant you're done at an age your brain isn't even fully formed.
That's right. And there's so many other young people who were either in the same class as me or before me who were also expelled and were victims of zero tolerance. And let me tell you, not all of them get to be an older person, or not all of them, bounce back from what it meant to go from a high school to handcuffs.
Wow. Yeah, that's the thing. That we talk about that being sort of the system that just funnels people. Yeah, and especially when you have a privatized prison system. Yeah,
that's right.
I remember
our school system helps fund it.
Yeah, Exactly. I remember when I tried writing a bit about this because Governor Quinn had signed a contract guaranteeing that prisons would stay 90% occupied. How do you we pull somebody over and you're like, why do you pull me over, officer? We have some empty cots. We have some empty beds. Another listener says, I love your guest, Jessie Fuentes. I am marching because of yous. We've been talking about yous and D's and does and over by dare. That's how my dad talked old Chicago. Let me get to some of these texts real quick before... For the numbnuts that think social programs are bad, ask them if they chased COVID checks or will receive Social Security checks. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that people want to criticize the most, don't realize how much they benefit as well.
That's right. I mean, even, as we look at sort of the political position that we are in now and sort of all of the justifications of why Trump would be good for this moment, that groceries would go down, gas would go down. Well, guess what, man? He's cutting your Medicaid. Like, you're not going to be able to go to the doctor, get your insulin, maybe get your asthma pump, or just get a physical checkup. People who have private insurance, I mean, look at the new market that we're looking at for next year, the doubling of our insurance prices. I mean, literally what we are seeing is social services be gutted, and it impacts people everywhere. There's this misconception that it just impacts black and brown people. And they said, no, it impacts absolutely everybody. Go to the rural parts of our state or across this nation and ask your average individual how they get to see the doctor, buy their food, sort of get through their day-to-day life is because of the social services that we invest money in.
Yeah. They're inextricable. You can't separate them. I never can use that word. I run right up to it. Nope, I don't have it. Alder Jessie Fuentes has been very vocal in her support for her community and standing up for those who are most targeted right now. So tell us a bit, leading up to when we found out that ICE agents were going to be sent to Chicago, because this is every day feels like a month now. I was asking you about time this morning because you wake up every morning and you're already getting alerts about spottings of agents, violence, the tear gassing. Can you remember, as this is unfolding, what kind of preparations were they taking in City Hall for ICE agents to descend upon us in our communities?
Well, the first thing that we had to do was defend the Welcoming City Ordinance. Right. Because I have some colorful colleagues that thought that it would be in our best interest to just start turning people over and undo the Welcoming City Ordinance. And so a lot of preparation for what this moment would look like was just protecting the policies that we have in place.
Since Harold Washington's administration who instituted this in the first place.
Say that again.
Yeah, since Harold Washington instituted it in the first place in 1984.
Thank you. This is not new policy. No. This is policy that has protected our cities. It's what keeps us safe. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, the zip code you grow up in, or your status. You should be comfortable calling 911 because you are at risk and not worry if CPD is going to work with ICE and get you deported because you're a victim of domestic violence, for example.
Yeah.
And so much of what we were doing to prepare was protecting our local policy so that we could keep families safe, and then making sure that we can put together our deportation defense networks to get ready for this moment because we knew that it was going to be bad. Now, some of us wondered, did we know it was going to be this bad? And we're seeing constitutional rights violated. We're seeing people get assaulted. We're seeing people in harm's way. I don't know if we were prepared for all of it, but I do know the work that we did is what has allowed us to document what we have so far.
Yeah. And so as they started the detention center in Broadview, because I know, protesters started showing up and, doing sitting in front of vehicles and things like that. Now, Broadview was chosen, obviously, because of the Welcoming City Ordinance. Is that in part? Or?
Yeah, from my understanding, but it's also the only processing center that's close to Chicago.
Okay. Oh, it is a processing center. So
it's not meant to be a full detention center, by the way.
Well, we're hearing that there's 150 people without, obviously not enough beds, without access to proper access to toiletry. I mean, meaning the bathroom, washing your face, brushing your teeth, the things that, you should be able to have access to, which we have in prisons, but not in detention center. I mean, the horror stories that we hear across the country.
That's right.
Have you been able to talk to anybody who's been in detention or anything that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to a couple folks, individuals who have been detained and arrested for exercising their First Amendment rights in protesting outside of Broadview. We've had individuals come out, having to go to the hospital because they may have suffered from a concussion. And so we've heard a bit about the conditions on the inside. And to your point, right, there are more people than there is capacity in this processing center. There are individuals who are on the floor, individuals who do not have access to the basics, right? If you need to go to the restroom, toiletries.
Tampons, I'm hearing. Maxi, all the sanitary objects.
Yeah, the feminine products. We are also hearing that folks are not getting the right to call an attorney or make the phone call, right? That we all have legal rights to. And so we are hearing the horror stories, both of what the reality inside of Broadview looks like and what's happening on the streets in Chicago.
So tell us about the day that was this a constituent from Humboldt Park, I believe, that was hit by a car?
Yeah, so there was a couple of things. I was on Armitage in Central Park. I was responding because ICE had just tear gassed the entire community. This is about 100 feet or less from an elementary school. And, women who were pregnant were tear gassed while walking, being in their apartment, people who were going to do groceries, individuals that were driving with their windows down, like almost crashing their vehicles, having to pull over because of the amount of gases that they had released on our commercial corridor, all because rapid responders were documenting the ICE sighting. Right.
Yeah.
And in that moment, the president of Humboldt Park Health, by the way, the hospital is in my ward, calls me and he says, I don't know what's happening. This is unacceptable, but ICE is in my emergency room. And staff and patients are scared because no one should go to an emergency room to get medical treatment and worry if they're going to get cuffed up by ICE. Right. And so I committed to the president. I'm going to make my way to the hospital. When I arrive, on the outside, I am received by the leadership of Humboldt Park Health. They take me into the emergency room, so a bit past the waiting room.
So staff has brought you in?
Yeah, staff has brought me in. I didn't just barge into this hospital without no permission, right? Staff invited me in. They take me to where the ICE agents are at. The ICE agents come out of the room where the patient is at, and I simply ask, hey, do you have a signed judicial warrant for the individual that you have detained here at the hospital? And, of course, they're not going to respond to the question because they don't care.
And one of the responses we all saw was, we don't need a warrant.
Yeah. Oh, and
we all saw that.
There's some more stuff that they say later, right? But they don't respond. They say they don't need a warrant. I'm told to, get the fuck out of here.
Oh, sorry. We're on the radio. Those of you watching on online, that happened in the moment. Go ahead.
So I'm told a bunch of things. They're cursing at me. And actually what people don't see in the footage is that I'm shoved by the ICE agent that handcuffs me. And that's what prompted my staffer to take out her phone and to start recording.
Oh, I see. Oh, so the recording starts after you've already been assaulted.
I've been shoved, yes. And so people don't see that. And that's what got her to sort of take out her phone and start recording. And so then when he pulls me and he handcuffs me, we go out of the emergency room outside into the public way. They call for backup. A vehicle pulls up, a white Expedition, and 2 Border Patrol agents jump out of this vehicle. And while I'm being walked to the vehicle, I'm very clear. I need to understand why you are handcuffing me, detaining me, and arresting me. What crime did I commit? Can you articulate to me?
That they even have jurisdiction over, by the way. Go ahead.
Right. But what are you charging me for?
Right.
What am I being taken for? I simply asked a question. I was not impeding on an arrest. I didn't even try to speak to the patient in the room. I was talking directly to the ICE agents, respectfully and calmly. Right. Yeah. And, I think it took them a minute to understand that I was an elected official. You hear my staffer sort of say, hey, the older person's being arrested, get Lisa, right? Lisa's my other staffer. I don't know if that registered for them because I don't think they're from Chicago, so I don't even know if they understood what older person meant.
Yep.
And so it wasn't until I'm about to walk out and I say, look, I'm an elected official. I have the right to advocate. I have the right to ask questions. And then the ICE agent goes, an elected official? An elected official of what? I said, I'm the local alderman for this ward. You are in my ward, and I have the right to ask questions. And so when we get to the back of that vehicle, the Border Patrol agent, I think, is trying to understand what were the circumstances that led me being handcuffed. And at some point, he says, take the handcuffs off. And the ICE agent tells me, well, if you come back in the hospital, I'm going to arrest you.
And did you ask for what? Because I told you so?
I said, I'm not.
I told you so?
I said, I won't leave until that man gets an attorney.
Yeah. And did he get an attorney?
Well, we got him an attorney. ICE agents never let the attorneys in. In fact, for almost 6 days, the ICE agents stood in that room on a 24-hour clock with 3 different shifts, did not allow that man to make a phone call, to see or speak to an attorney, and gave medical staff a hard time when they were speaking to him in Spanish, telling them that they had to speak English.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Oh, my God. Okay. We're talking to Alder Jessie Fuentes of the 26th Ward. The mailer is, that negative mailer is exactly why I voted for Alderman Fuentes. Anytime I have had an issue, Jessie has taken care of it. The 26th Ward loves you, Jessie.
Oh, thank you.
From Kurt. Let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation. We can open up the phone lines, I promised. 773-763-9278 is the mobile text and phone line. You can give us a call, and we'd love to hear from you. Credo Mobile, better for the planet and better for people, which we should all, kind of be.
If you're purchasing a new home and working with Rocket Mortgage, listen very closely. Carly, 54, first-time home buyer, income 65 G's a year. Contacted Rocket Mortgage for a mortgage. Rocket locked her into a 25-year fixed FHA loan at 6.125%, which sounds great until I reviewed Rocket's loan documents. Carly didn't know Rocket placed her into a 25-year fixed loan, not a 30-year fixed loan like she wanted. Carly also didn't know Rocket Mortgage charged her over $5,000 to lower her rate. I explained why I thought it wasn't in her financial best interest to buy down the rate, and that's why Team Hochberg, not Rocket Mortgage, will be helping Carly with her mortgage. Let's review. Rocket Mortgage placed Carly into a loan she didn't want and didn't understand why Rocket charged her to secure a lower rate. If you want to work with a lender you can trust, give us a call now at 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com, 855-563-2843 or visit our website 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, MLS 112-4061.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
About that, everybody. I was working out some technical issues for our show coming up with Up North Podcast because I want to make sure that they are able to feature Alder Jessie Fuentes as she continues to hang out with us in studio. I'm going to ask, do you have headphones over there? I don't think I gave you headphones. That kind of stinks for everybody. I really kind of poured. See those headphones right there? Can you grab those and see if you hear me coming through those? Are they connected to any? Yeah, I think. Can you hear me coming through there? Yeah, yes. Excellent. And then if it's too loud or too low, I can't help you. Because I want you to meet Jim. So let me set this up because Jim has been. We have some regular callers, and so everyone's got a personality and different roles in the show. Essentially, like they're part of the show. Jim reminds me of my dad if he were from the West Side and was a liberal. So he likes the horses. He likes to tip one back. And Jim is on. You're on with Alder Jessie Fuentes. What's on your mind, Jim?
Hi, Alderman. More than one in my day. But anyway,
hold on one second, Jim. Hold on. Alder, tell us a little bit of what's coming up in City Hall, and I'll get you your headphone set. Yeah, about what's going with what's going on in the city, of course.
Well, tomorrow we have the huge budget address that's taking place where we'll get to talk about how we're going to close the budget gap in the city of Chicago. Many of us are also prepared to take on protecting the Welcoming City Ordinance. A colleague of mine, Raymond Lopez, said that he was going to try once again to amend the Welcoming City Ordinance. So we're working real hard to make sure we can have that protected for all of the residents in the city of Chicago.
I was so excited. I went to Pilsen yesterday to support some of the businesses there, and it was heartening to see a lot of the signs about how ICE is not allowed on that property. Jim, I'm going to give it another shot and see if the alder can hear you. Can you hear Jim?
Alderman?
No?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Jim. You go and I'll fix it. Go ahead.
All right. I was just going to mention to the alderman that Loretta Hospitals, they're having to close their mental health arm of that hospital. And so many people, it was one gentleman came in, he was addicted on drugs for a couple of years, for whatever period of time. He looked like he was middle-aged. But he said, he literally saved my life. And if it closes, he has no idea where he's going to go. And, you just think of the expenditures for ICE. And also the Republican Party, the party of law and order. Now think what they sanctioned. They sanctioned an insurrection. They voted for a man who certainly didn't use law and order that day. And it continues with his $20 million to the dictator in Argentina to fix his election. And it's just insane to go through this. Patty, can you hear me?
Yeah, no. I wanted to make sure the alder could hear you. I'm going to give her an opportunity to respond.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Jim, for calling in, and all your points well taken, and, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Look, I think that we have to make sure that we are staying true to what we've built here in the city of Chicago, and that includes ensuring that we're funding mental health services and that we do not sort of take the bait or capitulate in this moment. I'm committed to making sure that everyone in this city has access to those resources, and we got to double down our efforts. Now, look, Trump's budget bill is sort of weakening our ability to continue to provide those social services, particularly because the departments that he's attacked are the Public Health Department and the Department on Housing, HUD. And we are watching individuals that sort of need these services the most, whether that's housing or mental health, really face a cut of services. And so at the local level, we're really going to have to organize ourselves to be able to fill the gap. And that's going to be a heavy lift. I'll tell you that much. And look, we all know that Donald Trump is a convicted felon on multiple accounts. And what he is doing here in the city of Chicago is declaring war on the very soil that he was elected to represent. This is not immigration enforcement. It's fascism. And this is about control. He wants every reason to be able to put in place the Insurrection Act and sort of enact martial law. And we have to continue to document everything we're seeing in this moment. We're going to have to make sure that we have the right people beside us and that we continue to exercise our First Amendment rights.
Alderman, you're terrific. Thank you very much. Thank you, Patty. Thanks a million, dear.
Of
Thanks,
course.
Jim.
I don't think we really use headphones because I heard screeching noises, so you don't have to keep. We'll wrap up. I apologize to our listeners who were trying to call in. We're having some technical issues because we're leading into the podcast. It's a lot of spinning plates, and I'm grateful to all of our engineers and producers here who make this happen. I make it complicated, so that's on me. Let me read some of the texts that we're getting as well. I'm not sure if my relatives in the 1800s came with proper documentation. Should all Americans turn themselves in on one date in the future and muck things up? I mean, because here's the thing. Like, there are people like my mother's family's from northern Mexico. The border moved on them.
Well, that's the conversation I was actually having with a colleague earlier. I'm sitting in committee and people are making some harsh comments during public comment. And, all I could say is the border crossed many of us. Mm-hmm. We didn't cross the border.
Yeah. Yeah, Coahuila, Mexico was Mexico, all the way up through Texas, Colorado, New Mexico, all of that.
That's right.
And someone, the thing is that it's all, I don't know how to tell you guys this, it's all stolen land. And that's not something people want to hear. All of it. Where's your documentation?
All of it is stolen land.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let me get to some of the. By the way, Jill says my dad still says D's, Dems, and Does. My dad would say like Finn and Sawbuck and all that stuff too. When we talk about what City Hall is doing, because I know I've talked to a couple of alders. We talked before the show about do we call. This is my question to you. How can we be allies? Not all of us are, feel safe enough to go to a protest in Broadview, but what can people do? What do you recommend?
Absolutely. There's so many things to do, and thank you for that question. First and foremost, if you're an individual that has capacity, there's so many opportunities for you to help keep safe passage, particularly for students and families during the school day at entry and dismissal. Let me tell you, attendance has plummeted across the city of Chicago. And because we're watching ICE agents sort of utilize safe passage routes to pick up parents, because that's when they're most vulnerable, when they're dropping or picking up their kid, and we're watching parents get taken away and leaving children behind. But if you're not someone, right, that has the time, you work really hard, you have a family to take care of, you can't be out on the streets documenting ICE sightings, please reach out to your local organizations. We have independent political organizations across different wards that are doing rapid response work that can take a donation to help keep the operations going. We have been working really hard to find ways to make sure that we're supporting local businesses. Look, you were in Pilsen supporting local businesses. There's so many of our local grocery stores today that are suffering because our families are not going to the grocery stores to do groceries. Your fruterias, your carnicerias, they are seeing revenue at the most low that they've ever seen it because people are scared.
Yeah.
They're scared to go to the grocery store. So if you can sort of do your groceries at our local businesses, have lunch or dinner at our local businesses, you're going to continue to support our local economy. The last thing I'll say is it's extremely important that if you suspect that you see ICE and you report the ICE sighting, that you do so with as much detail as possible, because what we need to know is the color of the vehicle, the license plates, how many agents, the intersection. If we are going to document what's happening in our community, we need as many reports as possible. So please call the ICER hotline at 855-435-7693 and make sure that when you report an ICE sighting, you do so with as much detail as possible.
What would you say to folks who, as far as de-escalating, like don't make this worse. Don't take the bait is what I've been trying to tell people as well.
That's right. Look, we all have First Amendment rights, and I think do just that. Exercise your First Amendment rights to document. You could document on your private property. You could document in the public way. You can protest. You can chant. It's extremely important. Look, these individuals, and I'm convinced, are not even trained law enforcement. Mm-hmm. These are individuals that have been deputized to carry out what Donald Trump is calling, quote unquote, immigration enforcement. The individual who handcuffed me is seen on 3 other videos.
Yeah.
Hurting people. I mean, the way that he pulled that young woman out of her car, threw her on the floor in Waukegan in front of the mayor. This man is unhinged.
Yeah.
This is not law enforcement. And so we want folks to be careful because we do not know who we're interacting with.
Exactly.
These are individuals that can be extremely racist, extremely harmful, and extremely violent.
Alder Fuentes is going to continue joining us as we start our broadcast with the Up North podcast with Monaco Brewing Company. Kirk Banks and Ben Cominos will be joining them in just a moment on WCPT and KKNW, and we'll welcome our friends on KTNF. More after this on Heartland Signal.
While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
Hurry in and save big money now at Menards. Improve your home's appearance with a new Ideal garage door. Choose from our large in-stock selection or design your own using our free Garage Door Designer. In-store or online. Save big on Ideal garage doors. And don't forget to check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
From office supplies to IT essentials, Amazon Business provides tools that help you save costs and make insight-based decisions. Learn how to bring your visions to life at AmazonBusiness.com.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. Israel's received remains believed to be those of 2 more hostages from Hamas, but the Israeli military has said one of the bodies previously turned over was not that of a hostage. Meantime, Jennifer King reports the 20 living hostages released this week are beginning a difficult path to recovery.
Israeli health officials say that will include a supervised diet, treatment for pain and malnutrition, and rebuilding a sense of control over their lives after 2 years in captivity.
Every one of them has endured untold adversity and horrors.
Dr. Itai Pesach is with the Sheba Medical Center, where 10 former hostages are hospitalized.
They will probably need weeks, months, and maybe years to heal.
Many of the hostages wore leg chains for their entire captivity, which can lead to orthopedic problems, muscle waste, and blood clots. Refeeding syndrome is another issue and can be deadly. Rebecca Bobat says her husband is suffering because ahead of his release, he received food in big quantities so that he would look better for the world. Dr. Haggai Levine, head of the health team for the Hostages Family Forum, says previous hostages had untreated strokes and infections and compromised immune systems. I'm Jennifer King.
The Supreme Court heard arguments over Louisiana's redrawn congressional map. Mark Sherman was there.
The court seems ready to gut a key part of the Voting Rights Act that has been used to root out racial discrimination in voting. Such an outcome could boost Republican electoral chances across the South and in the closely contested House of Representatives. After 2.5 hours of arguments, the court's 6 conservative justices each seemed ready to strike down a congressional district in Louisiana that was drawn to elect or to give black voters in that district a chance to elect a candidate of their choosing.
The federal judges temporarily blocked the Trump administration from firing workers during the government shutdown, and the World Food Program warns donor cuts could push nearly 14 million people into hunger. This is AP News. It Donahue has the findings of a new report on the implosion of the Titan tourist sub.
Investigators say faulty engineering led to the implosion of the Titan submersible heading to the wreck of the Titanic. The National Transportation Safety Board says the Titan had multiple anomalies and failed to meet necessary strength and durability requirements. It also said OceanGate, the owner of the Titan, failed to adequately test it and was unaware of its true durability. All 5 people were killed on the submersible in 2023, including OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush. The report also said the Titan likely would have been found sooner had OceanGate followed standard guidance for the emergency response. The Coast Guard released a report in August that described the Titan implosion as preventable and found glaring disparities between safety protocols and actual practices. I'm Ed Donahue.
There's more news at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Look for cloudy skies tonight with a low temperature of 56 degrees and east winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Thursday, sunshine with a high temperature of 67 degrees and southeast winds at 5 to 10. Friday, a couple of showers with a high temperature of 72 and south winds at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Saturday, scattered showers and storms with a high temperature around 72 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 61.
This is the WCPT Moment in Labor. In 2011, 6 Jimmy John's employees in Minneapolis were fired by their franchise-owning company, Mickey Lynn Enterprises, after fighting for paid sick days. This is a common theme in the union-free world of fast food. Over 13 million Americans work in the fast food industry, making an average of $13,500 a year, not even half the average cost of living. 80% of fast food workers have experienced work-related injuries, and only 13% were covered by their employer. A group of employees referred to as the Jimmy John's Six fought for these rights, creating an online campaign, posting a picture of 2 sandwiches saying one of these was made by a healthy employee, the other was made by a sick employee. Can you tell the difference? Too bad, as Jimmy John's workers do not get paid sick days. Help workers win sick days. More than 32 million Americans work a job that does not offer paid sick days. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
I'm Ben Cominos from WHBY in Appleton. Joining us from WCPT in Chicago is Patti Vasquez. And from the Minocqua Brewing Company, here's Kirk Bankstead. We've got the usual suspects from our Substack page with us, as well as a special guest or two. Wherever you are, welcome, you're up north.
If you're tuning in on WCPT, we're about to start the Up North podcast where we'll also be featuring Alder Jessie Fuentes. I want to read a text that came in for somebody while we're ready. Oh, wait, take it away, Kirk Bankstead.
Welcome to the Up North podcast. We have got so much stuff going on tonight. We are, thank you, Patti, for letting us join your show on WCPT 820. We've got Ben Cominos from Outside the Box, WHBY in Appleton. We got Senator Chris Larson from coming in from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We're going to talk to him all hour. We got Amy Thomas. She's basically does everything behind the scenes for the Minocqua Brewing Company. And then, obviously, last but not least, we have both Patti Vasquez, who is rocking her show Up North with Patti Vasquez, WCPT 820. But Patti has with us the famous and the fighter who we bow our hats to you in Wisconsin, Alder Jessie Fuentes, for what you're doing to stand strong against ICE, because we know it's coming north eventually, and we got to learn from what you guys are doing down in Chicago. So Alder Jessie Fuentes is joining us. Patti, can you talk about a little bit more about what the Alder's been through over the last couple days?
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Hey, everybody. We have just wrapped up an hour of interviewing Alder Fuentes, where I even learned more about her career. And, of course, you know, in Chicago, we are a welcoming city, meaning we're a sanctuary city. We have been since 1984 when Harold Washington wanted to make sure that people who immigrated to our city were able to have the full access and opportunities in our city, meaning that if they needed to call the police for domestic violence or any kind of crime, they would not be vulnerable to being deported, to having immigration called on them. And we have been so proudly since 1984, and in the last couple of years, you know that Governor Abbott has taken advantage of not only our city but other cities who have similar welcoming policies to send busloads of individuals who are fleeing either politically vulnerable or hostile situations, coming here for economic opportunities, for safety, for being able to care for their families. And you know, the ICE occupation now has become increasingly volatile, increasingly militarized, and as many people saw around the world, our own alderperson who was visiting a patient, a constituent who had been involved in an accident, who was severely injured, and she had been called by, well, we'll let her talk about that some more, but that video in which she was aggressively shoved, handcuffed, simply for asking for proper warrant. So I want to turn it over for you guys to talk to Alder Fuentes. I'll be in the room and I'll be back in a little bit. So thank you so much for taking this moment to talk to her.
All right, Alder Fuentes, give us the breakdown. I've seen the video, and I think a lot of the people on this panel have seen the video, but some folks haven't. So give us a breakdown of what happened and, you know, why you were there in the first place and what you're doing about it.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's an honor to be here with you all. You know, I was called by the president of Humboldt Park Health, who wanted to articulate to me that staff and that patients were really concerned because ICE agents had a presence at the emergency room in the hospital, and that they had detained an individual in the emergency room that was there with a shattered leg. And the president of the hospital is very proud of being able to provide services to community and to provide safe space for community. Look, at the end of the day, having ICE agents in your emergency room doesn't necessarily make you feel safe to go get medical attention. I committed to the president that I would make my way there. I was welcomed by the leadership of the hospital. They brought me in to where the ICE agents were at. They come out of that room, and I simply asked them, and you can see it in the video, is if they had a signed judicial warrant for the individual that they were detaining in the hospital. Now, you hear them respond that they don't need a warrant. They later say they also don't need a warrant because he's an illegal. But what you don't see in that video is that I'm actually shoved once. It's what prompted my staffer to take out her phone and start recording. That same agent puts me in handcuffs, and we walk out of the emergency room where they have called for backup, and a vehicle pulls up with 2 Border Patrol agents. And I don't know if they fully understood when my staffer, and you hear it in the video, she says, can someone get Lisa, the alderperson, is being arrested. I don't think these individuals are from Chicago, so I don't know if they knew what alderperson meant, right? It wasn't until I said, look, I'm an elected representative. I have the right to advocate. I have the right to ask questions. and I have the right to know why you are arresting me. And the ICE agent says, an elected representative from where? I said, I'm the local alderman, and I have the right to advocate for my constituents. We start sort of debating in the lobby where we're in the back seats, and it's very clear that at that moment they realize everyone's recording. They have someone in handcuffs who is fully articulating their rights and is demanding to understand what they're being charged with, and they don't have an answer, right? And that's typical behavior for ICE. We're seeing it all over the city of Chicago. People's constitutional rights are being violated. People are being tear gassed, shot with pepper bullets, tackled, zip-tied, all for exercising our First Amendment rights to record and to ask questions.
Alderperson Ben Cominos. I host a radio show up in Northeast Wisconsin. I just recently wrote an article for Kirk's Substack referencing the fact that we're somewhat isolated from this incident in Northeast Wisconsin. We have a smaller metropolitan area in Appleton. We have had arrests, but we most certainly are not dealing with this on the day in and day out the way your community is and the people in your region are. Is the attitude that you were met with by some of these ICE agents pervasive? Is that a pretty standard operating procedure amongst everybody you come across? Are there people that do show remorse or interest in trying to exhibit the right way? Or what's been your experience with this interaction and outside of that as well?
Look, if I could be honest with you, I think that the interaction that I had was the kindest we've seen. We have had individuals who have been tackled to the ground, individuals who have had their vehicles rammed into by ICE agent vehicles. We have had entire communities tear gassed. We had Silverio that was murdered outside of the city of Chicago, and, Homeland Security coming up with a fabricated statement that this individual had dragged in ICE agents for hundreds of feet and severely injured him. If it wasn't for the fact that everyday residents in the city of Chicago are choosing to document the reality of what's happening, Homeland Security would continue to come up with these fabricated narratives that we're such a violent city with violent people and that ICE agents' lives are at risk. Let me tell you, the only people's lives that are at risk right here in the city of Chicago are the residents of our city. And that is because ICE agents are creating chaos and they're ensuing violence on the people of the city of Chicago.
Alderwoman, thank you for joining us and thank you for your bravery and stepping forward. I'm a state senator just north of you in Milwaukee, and it's good to see other elected officials putting themselves out there on the line. I saw that there was a move to bring a lawsuit forward, or there was talk of that this week. Do you have any updates on that? And I'm also curious because there was a strong statement by a majority of your Common Council, which I think it brings a lot of comfort to your community. Is the community with you on this? And I'm curious what the spirit is like amongst the people of Chicago right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for all the questions. We are considering a lawsuit. I am in conversation with my legal counsel because we have not filed yet, because we're not done with sort of documenting the incident itself. Right now, the only thing I can articulate is that we're exploring all options. To your point around my colleagues signing a letter, and yes, an overwhelming majority of my colleagues really sort of supporting me in that moment, does bring a lot of comfort in where we stand as a city. Look, I am a part of a body of 50 older people. For more than 30 plus older people to say what happened is a constitutional violation, that we need to stand firm in our commitment to protecting constitutional rights and protecting every single resident, should give residents in the city of Chicago a sense of security that they have elected local leaders to represent their best interests. And look, I'll tell you, the solidarity that we're feeling on the streets of the city of Chicago is huge. We are watching individuals who are residents, who are white, who are old, who are young, who are black, who are brown, who are Asian, who are coming out every single day to respond and document ICE sightings, to protect children and families going to and from school, who are helping families do groceries, who are donating dollars into a mutual aid fund so that we can help people pay rent, who have had a relative, a husband or a father taken from them who was the financial leader in that household. We are watching the entire city of Chicago come together in this moment. And I think if we are going to overcome this, it is going to be our collective strength and a show of solidarity and creating a narrative that shows the reality of what we are experiencing in this moment. And so I have a lot of hope in this moment because Chicago is showing up and they're showing out.
I don't know who's doing the follow-up, but I just saw that the news broke recently that a county judge in Chicago barred ICE from arresting people in court, which is a huge breakthrough, and that seems to be on top of the other court order that's barring them from using tear gas. Does the fact that the courts are standing up in this unique moment in American history give you comfort that they are standing on your side and recognizing this growing authoritarianism in your backyard?
Oh, absolutely. And look, in terms of the county judge ruling in our favor, I have to recognize Cook County Commissioner Patti Vasquez and Cook County Commissioner Alma Anaya, who worked really hard to ensure that we can get that ruling. Look, what we've been seeing in the city of Chicago is people are going to court for different cases and being picked up right inside of our courtrooms. A complete violation of what we know a sanctuary status to be. And so we have local elected officials that are working really hard to make sure that's not the case. Look, the court rulings that we have seen in the city of Chicago and across the state of Illinois are huge wins for us in this moment. We are watching people say that there is a place for the courtrooms and there's a place for law. And we have a collection and a collective, a strong collective of lawyers who are helping people fight these civil cases, who are helping people combat trumped-up criminal charges that these federal agents have placed on protesters and residents across the city. And to be able to have a courtroom and judges that are saying what is happening in the city of Chicago is not just wrong, it is criminal, allows us to believe that we can move forward. Now, will Donald Trump listen to these court rulings? Will he follow the law? In the city of Chicago, ICE agents aren't supposed to wear masks. They are supposed to identify themselves. The court ruling a couple days ago made it illegal for them to throw tear gas or to shoot people with pepper bullets if people are not in imminent danger. And just yesterday on the southeast side, they tear gassed an entire community, including an alderman. And so we need to continue to fight these things in the courtroom. We need our local elected officials to continue to pull every legislative lever and to document that Donald Trump is willing to break every single law to politically punish Democrat cities who did not vote for him.
I have to sneak in here, Alder, because I thank you, Alder Jessie Fuentes, both for the hour you spent with us on WCPT and your time here on Up North Podcast. You can stay if you want. I gotta turn it over back to the station for a minute for commercials, and we're gonna come back. Well, hi everybody. We're gonna come back in just a moment with the Up North Podcast and check in with Senator Chris Larson to see about the gubernatorial race. We're hanging out with Kirk Bangstead, Ben Cominos of Outside the Box on WHBY. More in a moment on KTNF, KKNW, and WCPT.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk
A Better Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
A lot of the money that goes
if you
to
scroll
pay our
past any influencer's social media posts, they will likely tell you that it's discipline that got them where they are.
Minnesota,
but
Illinois,
what if I told you there is a growing consensus that devotion might work even better? It's a word people often associate with religion or maybe your favorite band, but you can turn things around and apply it to yourself as well. One content creator we talked to said she sometimes feels discipline is more driven by obligation or structure, whereas devotion, that rises from love and passion. I really like that. So how do you know which one is right for you? I like this bit of advice from a prominent psychologist. If you're doing something for someone else or for them to see you a certain way, discipline is likely the best way to get there. If you are doing something for you, for the long run, to get ahead, then devote to yourself. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
The Up North Podcast is sponsored by the Monaco Brewing Company.
More fiber?
Sells progressive beer online.
Down here, buddy. It's me, your spoon. Constipation with belly pain still coming back?
Yeah.
Talk to your doctor. It could be irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, but Linzess could help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
And we are returning to the Up North podcast here on WCPT, KKNW, and KTNF. And I know we are about to turn it over to our friends from Up North podcast, Kirk Banks and Minocqua Brewing Company's mastermind, Ben Cominos, the host of Outside the Box on WHBY, and Senator Chris Larson. Take it away, Kirk.
Thank you, Patty. I'm actually going to handle it, but I appreciate it nevertheless. Senator Larson for the 7th District here joining us again. Always good chatting to you. You were one of the first guests I ever had on my show, actually, so I always enjoyed these conversations with you. But you had an interesting day today. First day back in 90 days into session. Lord knows I know any of us talking politics wait for a certain political party to get back in the swing of things here. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem as though a whole heck of a lot was done in the name of trying to address things for the people of Wisconsin here. Of all things, we're revisiting the Charlie Kirk conversation from almost a month ago in our state. And you had some interesting thoughts about, or you're the whole party, and you had some interesting thoughts about how to address this if we are, in fact, going to recognize Charlie Kirk. Talking about political violence in general, and it was met in the way that anyone who follows Wisconsin politics would probably expect. But why don't you just describe a little bit of your experience on the floor and what it was like there today?
Yeah, thank you, Ben, and it's good to see you again. This was yesterday that we went through this, and it was a long day. They brought up the Charlie Kirk resolution, and we knew that this was likely to happen because yesterday was Charlie Kirk's birthday. And they've decided that this was something that they wanted to highlight, and it was going to take several hours. They ended up putting forward a resolution that failed to condemn political violence at all. And at first we thought, okay, we'll do some introduction where we'll just add that in, but we decided to do a substitute talking about the growth of political violence. And they did a parliamentary procedure where they ruled it out of order and said it wasn't germane, and went out of their way to not even allow that to be discussed on the floor and cut off the leader's mic in that regard. We had 2 senators who spoke up about the white supremacist quotes that he had given over the years. But I needed to talk about the political violence, specifically how it's been used. Charlie Kirk's death since his passing has been used to go after folks in a McCarthyist kind of way. So I highlighted somebody who was from Wisconsin, a woman named Cynthia Rayberg, who is an assistant principal in Elkhorn, whose phone started ringing just days after Charlie Kirk's assassination. Where some right-wing influencer decided that he was going to pick up her and target her. Over the course of a weekend, she got hundreds of calls. The school district got hundreds of calls. They published her phone number. They published her address. And she was on the other end of this. Just talking about that and trying to read the news story was too much. And there's a lot more I wanted to say about, frankly, the state-sanctioned political violence that's being instituted right now that we just heard from Alderwoman Fuentes. And not only did they try and cut me off, they ended up cutting my mic, which irony of ironies in the discussion of free speech and how it's important to make sure that we exercise free speech and defend free speech. They not only cut off my mic, but they ended up ending debate. They took an extra motion to be able to shut down any discussion and moving a parliamentary procedure called calling the question, which means that nobody can discuss anything anymore, and just shutting the whole thing down, making a whole mockery of the whole resolution. So it was a big mess. Before I knew it, that was spreading on Instagram, and people have been jumping all over it. But I think it demonstrated that it's free speech for them in the way that they want it, and not in the way that it is meant to be celebrated throughout America.
All right, Senator Larson, we could talk about that at length. I've done a lot of stuff on socials about the craziness of the Charlie Kirk stuff happening. I think Russian bots have a lot to play in it. But what I really wanted to talk to you about today, apart from your session yesterday, was, we've talked a lot about the governor's race. It's very important, obviously, that we have a governor in Wisconsin. Tony Evers is not running again. AG Call announced that he's not running again. We have about 7 candidates running. This race, the next governor of Wisconsin will be in charge of protecting Wisconsinites from the abuses that we just heard about with Alder Fuentes in Chicago. And I wrote on Sunday that I'm hearing a lot of discussion about human rights violations, about fascism, about the toppling of our democracy from these candidates yet. And I think we've talked about that. And I want to get your sense of, I think they should be talking about that. What do you think they should be talking about?
Yeah, I think your audio is a little bit muffled. It sounds like you said, "What do you think we should be talking about?" As for the gubernatorial candidates. Frankly, I think it's a huge victory, and I know Kirk, you as well as a number of local elected officials and folks around the state, we're pushing for the governor, our current governor, to get out there and push a little more what's happening nationally. And he was not doing that, thankfully, and I give him a lot of credit and a lot of gratitude that Tony Evers kind of read the room and decided to not run for re-election. And I think that this is working itself out. There's a lot of folks, and for those of us that are seeing what's going on, and I would say it's some of us who have a toxic relationship with social media and are seeing what's going on and spending way too much time not looking away, are seeing that mounting authoritarianism is right here at our doorstep, right? It is right across the border in Illinois. It's already hit here in Wisconsin. A friend of mine, a judge, was arrested and showcased in shackles, right? And still awaiting trial for doing nothing illegal. So we've known this is here. And now having all of these candidates step out there, little bit by little bit, they're starting to figure it out and realizing and taking the lead from Governor Pritzker, Governor Newsom, and others to be able to call out exactly what's going on. And I think that's starting to happen. It's not happening as quickly as we'd like. I do think that we live in this alternative universe, and I get it, right? That there's people who are paying attention to it, and people want to go back to their normal life and watch their normal sitcoms and catch up on their Netflix, without having pretend that the authoritarianism is not here. But if you talk to folks, it starts as a whisper, and pretty soon it's just a normal conversation. I think this Saturday is going to be a breaking point with No Kings, that you're going to have a lot of folks out there saying this is it, right? We have to stand up for our First Amendment rights while we still can. And I think the gubernatorial candidates will follow suit.
We have about a minute here, Senator, and I do want to ask how people are being affected by the government shutdown. If you could let us know if that's something that's really starting to take hold in your state.
Yeah, it hasn't affected us in a huge way, other than we're watching what's going to happen with these healthcare premiums. That is a ticking time bomb. And so that is something we're worried about. There's, the fact that they're threatening to fire federal workers is definitely leaving a lot of questions of what the future of our state is going to be and the future of federal government is going to be. I'm talking to folks about what's happening within our airports, both the airing of Kristi Noem's highly political blaming of Democrats for a shutdown when they control all aspects of government. And then, of course, the massive delays that are happening. So anybody that's flying is recognizing that this is starting to affect your life, and then the weaponization of the closure is definitely going to start hitting people. with the increased healthcare premiums that are due to hit in just a few months. So this is it's an odd time that they're using this as an extra excuse to go after their political enemies, but they've been doing that. And now this is just an accelerant, right? It's a stick of TNT on an already burning fire.
I really appreciate the updates. Again, that's Senator Chris Larson of Wisconsin. We love our Wisconsin friends to the north. I am a fib for Wisconsin. I don't know if we discussed that before. Of course, we are broadcasting the Up North podcast from our friends at Minocqua Brewing Company. Joining us is Kirk Bangstead and the host of Outside the Box on WHBY. It's Ben Cominos. You can catch all of our work, all of us who work on Minocqua Brewing Company's their Substack and subscribe to the newsletter. And we'll be back with everybody. We're going to talk to our friend Brian Potts from Goods United on WCPT, KKNW, and KTNF right here in Chicago and up north.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Look for cloudy skies tonight with a low temperature of 56 degrees and east winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Thursday, sunshine with a high temperature of 67 degrees and southeast winds at 5 to 10. Friday, a couple of showers with a high temperature of 72 and south winds at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Saturday, scattered showers and storms with a high temperature around 72 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 60.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Driving, it's just better in a Porsche. Find yours at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Browse and test drive our extensive selection, like the 2025 Porsche Cayenne. And right now, lease the 2025 Macan for only $949 a month for 39 months. Discover performance like no other at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. $7,469 due at signing. Excludes tax, title, license, and dock fee. No security deposit required. Expires 10/31/25.
Are you looking for more in this world? Are you ready for something bigger? Then we are looking for you. The big-hearted, the bold, the messy, and the gutsy. The teachers, the growers, the builders, the skilled, the sharers, the change makers. We need you. We are the Peace Corps. In more than 60 countries, we go all in and all out. We are volunteers, partners, communities, working together, living together, bringing our experience, passion, and joy to building a better world together. From tackling climate change in Mexico to keeping kids healthy in Kenya. From sustainable farming in the Philippines to education in Kosovo. We learn more, give more, share freely, and serve boldly. Are you ready to tackle the tough stuff? To go the distance to make a difference? Then we have a place where you belong. Join us at peacecorps.gov.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
The timing is slightly off with our Up North podcast. We welcome back our Up North podcast producers and all of our wonderful hosts. We have Kirk Bangstead, the mastermind behind Minocqua Brewing Company, Ben Cominos, the host of Outside the Box on WHBY in Appleton, Wisconsin, Senator Chris Larson, and now joining us, tell us what we have next, because I haven't read the messages yet. We have joining us, I'm so excited about this because I use Goods United everywhere. Kirk, take it away. We have your mic back.
We got Brian Potts next, and Brian Potts is a great friend of mine, and it's amazing what we're doing right now. We're simulcasting on in all throughout Chicago. We're putting this podcast out on Substack and Facebook and YouTube, and so there is some timing issues. But I'm telling you, it's really helpful to get all this information out to people who are part of the resistance. So this next segment, I wanted to talk to Brian Potts, who's a friend of mine, who. He invented. He's a partner, an attorney at Hush Blackwell.
Can you all hear me? Because I can't hear anything.
Oh no, he can't hear it. How can he? That's
I
can hear you there, Brian. Can you hear me right now? Can you hear me right now, Brian?
Oh dear, we're gonna do this.
I think this might be a Brian issue.
Oh no, it's a Brian. It's you.
It's you. It's on you, Brian.
We can hear you.
I know I just did the test and my speakers work fine.
Oh no, I've had this happen. By the way, I was in a meeting and I could not.
Let me go back out and come back in.
Okay,
but we can hear you, Dan. We can hear you. Okay, he's going to come out and come back in. So, I will talk about Brian. So Brian is an attorney at Hush Blackwell in Wisconsin. But the way I discovered him was he created an app called Goods Unite Us, which the methodology is amazing. It kind of aggregates all of the political donations that are done by the C-suite in like Fortune 500 companies, like the CFO, the CEO, the chief operating officer. These donations, what do they give the Democrats or Republicans? And he aggregates all of that information, and then he can tell you on an app called Goods Unite Us whether or not this company's like management team, which means the company in general, is kind of leaning left or leaning right. And that idea that he came up with a few years ago it dovetails perfectly with how we can resist as a country in America, how people that don't love to march or don't necessarily aren't capable of fighting with ICE on the streets or helping their neighbors with mutual aid. It's easy to choose which companies you want to buy your products from, and Brian helped us figure this out. And so
I can hear you now too.
Wonderful, thank you, Brian. So I just
been here. I guess you could hear me. Sorry,
I just gave you a great introduction, Brian.
I tell you,
I gave you a great introduction, but tell us about how your app and your mutual fund are helping us resist in America.
Yeah, well, that's easy to tell. So we're fighting money in politics by weaponizing the data, basically against the companies. And that's the idea of Goods Unite Us and providing transparency around what these companies are doing. It's all just data. So we are literally tracking Federal Election Commission contributions from the executives and the company PAC, and that's it. And we aggregated over 3 election cycles, and that's all put together. We got to go up and down the corporate chain and figure out the brands, and we put that all in an app and give it to you for free. And it's called Goods Unite Us, and we've had 2.5 million people using it since the election. We're getting we're not marketing it at all, and that's all been just organic. So we've got a movement already. And on the investment side, what a lot of people don't realize, and I'm not a finance professional, I'm a lawyer, but my wife and I started this company back in 2017 as a basically for-profit way of fighting money in politics. And we realized that people's investment money is sitting in Republican companies, and companies, their retirement, if you're lucky enough to have investments or retirement, you almost definitely own something called an S&P 500 index fund, which is basically an all market fund. So like 80% of all the capital in the market is in these just all market funds. And if you look at who's in the S&P 500, that you're talking about ExxonMobil and AT&T and Home Depot. And actually we have a data product now called Index Align that tracks more detail. We can tell the $2.3 billion has gone from these 500 companies to Republicans, and that's a lot of money. And we can tell you down to the issue where that money's going now in the app and our premium version. So it's like $4 a month, costs the same as a coffee, and you can look up a company and figure out exactly what the political money they're doing, how that's influencing political votes all the way to the politician. So, and Dems is our S&P 500 index fund. I like to think of it as the S&P without the GOP. And so what we do is we take the S&P 500, and I mean an actual SEC registered investment advisor, not me, and call out the ones that have given 75% or more to Democrats, and that's the investable universe of the S&P 500. And we've done that, and over the last 5 years, DEMS is the ticker, DEMZ, we're coming up on 5 years. We will be we should be beating the market net of fees just based on using Democratic companies from the S&P 500. That's what we hope. That the 5th year anniversary is November 2nd. So I'm hoping that'll get some news that the Democratic companies in the S&P 500 have outperformed the whole market in the last 5 years, because all we're doing is data. It is literally data on who's in the C-suite. Is it Democrats or Republicans of these big companies? And we kind of like to think of it as a values-based screener, because it's really hard to get values-based data on a lot of these companies. ESG, if you know what that is, has a bad name, environmental, social, and governance ratings. And that's just because those ratings are hard to do. And you're a third party. How do you figure out what Apple's environmental footprint is, for example? But if you know who's in the C-suite, you know who's making the decisions, and that is really what we think matters more than anything else. And that's why, using this tool to shop, Goods Unite Us, free app, super easy. You can search by category. You can screen by issue. Political issue. So anyway, is that enough of background, Kirk?
That's a lot of background, my friend. And what you're doing is what Harvard Kennedy School professor Erica Chenoweth wrote about in 2022 when she wrote an essay that I have used in trying to direct my company's political activism to a resistance. She said, not only do we need to monitor, disseminate government abuse, like people taking video of Alder Fuentes, which we had in an earlier segment. That's one thing we got to do. We got to rally in the street. We got to protest in the streets. That's another thing we can do. But the thing that you and I are focusing on is something that she wrote about, and it's called economic cooperatives. And if you think about it, like in World War II, when Hitler was beating up on the Jews, like, they got together in their neighborhoods, and they closed their economies down, and they bought from their local shops, and then those shop owners who were part of their community who was getting oppressed fed money back into their community so that they could fight the oppression. And so Brian is helping, on steroids, he's helping us, guide us on where we need to put our money so that we don't send money to folks who are bending the knee to Trump. And he gave me the idea to use his data to actually start collecting businesses who are progressive together in an e-commerce site, so that we can try to get everybody who is spending money on normal stuff like toilet paper and detergent and anything that they just need on the daily basis. They can now go to a site and they can buy that stuff and know that their money is not feeding MAGA, not feeding Trump, not feeding ICE. And that we call that the monopoly marketplace. But I wouldn't have been able to create that website if it wasn't for the Brian's app and his mutual fund. And that is
my wife. My wife is amazing. She's the co-founder. Actually, I have a good story about why we started this, and that is she ran for office in Dane County, which is the area around Madison, and we were out in a rural area, and it was February, and we literally I must have knocked on 2,000 doors, and we went through that election process, and the whole thing is just crazy to me that to get elected, the main skill you need is call people or knock on doors and get money. Like that's how we're electing people. And that seems just like a bad idea. So personally, I'm for, no money in politics, but corporations have an outsized voice, and that's not fair. At least with individuals, we're not, we can't pool lots of money and get employees to put money in a PAC and then give that to whatever party I like. That's just seems like a bad idea.
I can't thank you enough to you and everybody involved in Goods Unite Us, Brian. I just actually, while you were talking, I just bought 5 shares of Dems, just so you know. It's easy. That's how easy it is on my phone right now. I'm like, all right. When I go shopping, I buy a bottle of wine. I go to Goods Unite Us first. Folks, go to goodsuniteus.com. It's a game changer. If you're frustrated with everything and you're like, I don't want to feed the monster, do this. Do good things. Thank you, Brian, for everything that you and everybody on
and
the
the
team
apps
does.
are even better. So download the apps in the App Store.
Yeah,
it's all free.
Yeah, download the app. And like I said, I just bought 5 shares of Dems. I'm very excited.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. That's all I got right now.
Sorry about the audio problems.
You're great. Thank you so much. We're going to take a break here, and we look forward to talking to you again. I want to connect with Brian as well, if you don't mind. Can you share him with me, Kirk? Is that all right? Okay, cool. Let's take a break. Let's take a break here. When we come back, we're gonna talk about some positive resistance. We're gonna share some good news. We'll talk to Dan Kaysen from Indivisible, Waukesha County. Is that right, Kirk? All thumbs up on that, making sure I'm reading everything right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you again to Brian Potts from Goods Unite Us. Again, download the app, do some good shopping, put your money where your values are, because we need it now more than ever. We'll be right back after this with the Up North podcast from Minocqua Brewing Company. Thank you, everyone, tuning in on WCPT, KTNF, and KKNW. Let's do this.
Believe it or not,
we're joined by Allie Mae Miller, hypnotherapist.
Hypnosis is portrayed in media in general. Manipulation, mind control. People think it's like a truth serum. My clients describe it as they're in control the whole time. It's definitely not a truth serum. The client decides what they share with me, even in a state of hypnosis.
Think Theory Radio with Damian Perdue. Saturdays at 6 p.m. on WCPT 820.
When I first had my baby, I'd get comments all the time about how happy I must be. I remember thinking, I want to be happy. Why don't I feel that way? It was hard to admit that, even to my doctor. But I'm glad I did. She told me it was postpartum depression, and that is very treatable. These days, things are feeling good, and we're both happier about that. Right, little man? I'll take that as a yes.
Mental health care is working for Simone. See what it can do for you at mentalhealthcareworks.org. A message from the American Psychiatric Association Foundation.
Today, 1 in 5 working-age Americans has a mental health condition.
People in all types of jobs and at all levels.
And the key to helping us succeed is a supportive and inclusive workplace.
All of us have a role to play in making that happen.
So what can I do to help?
As a CEO, I can set the tone for supportive culture.
As a manager, I can offer assistance and accommodations.
As a coworker, I can listen and be a source of support to my colleagues.
As someone with a mental health condition, I can ask for what I need to perform my best.
I can offer all employees the supports they need to deliver on the job. For the team
and for the business.
What can I do?
What can I do?
What can I do?
I can remind others
that we all benefit from workplaces that promote good mental health.
Mental health-friendly workplaces are more important than ever.
And all of us have a role to play in promoting them.
Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us as we continue broadcasting the Up North podcast here on WCPT. And we'll bring back our friends on the air right now. Hey, everybody, go ahead. Take it away. Or we could lead into our
No, I got it. I'm jumping in. We're good. Thanks. Sorry for the delay. Welcome back, folks. I'm Amy, and this is the 4th segment here, where we take a breath and we share some good news and some positive resistance. So today, the first guest, we've got 2 of them. The first one joining us will be Dan from Indivisible Waukesha East, and he's here to share with us some information about the No Kings event that's happening in Milwaukee on Saturday. And if I understand correctly, Dan, you've been helping to organize this. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. This is actually our 3rd event. We had the Hands Off rally back in April, the No Kings on June 14th. And now this one, it's growing continually, and that's the great part about this. It's just building and building, and we're trying to innovate and become more successful in reaching out every time.
Do you have any expectations for crowd size? Do you know what we're looking at in numbers?
Yeah. So I think we were originally with the hands-off rally, I think we were at about 5,000 to 7,000 people. This June 14th event was about 15,000. And this time we expect 18 to 20,000 coming live on this. We're going to be able to work in a live streaming with our sound and video producer this time, and really try to connect to the crowd in some interesting ways.
That's fantastic. And then are you looking for folks to help, or how can people get involved?
Yes, we are. We have a particular website called nokingsmke.com, and it's a collection of links that will take you to volunteering as well as donations to support the event, which we're doing very well on, thanks to Minocqua Brewing. Thank you. And others. And we have a lot of other interesting things to click on there to engage. For example, the Indivisible program with Courage Collectives, where we're pushing back on the authoritarian pillars and trying to shake them. And pretty much going to have Trump come out on stage in a tank. It should be kind of fun and interesting. Some street theater that's going on to really kind of engage the crowd and really have them connect to the program, and then try to measure those metrics to see how our growth is occurring here. So all about growing, and it's all about pushing back and making this happen.
Hey, Dan, Chris Larson. I'm having one of these in my district, which I'm really excited about at Cathedral Square. And I'm very curious of what your pitch is to folks who are trying to invite people who may not have been to a protest before and don't know what to expect. So what would you recommend? I'm sure people listening to this podcast are no strangers to it, but what do you recommend as they're inviting other people in their life who are new to coming out and protesting and exercising their First Amendment's rights this way?
Yeah, I think the key is to really kind of lay it out to them, that experience, that all the stress and the freedom that they'll get out of it will really suppress any kind of fear that you have. You're among so many other people that are like-minded, and you really got to understand that we're supporting each other. It's the more we gain a critical mass of people, the more we're going to be able to show that we can all do this. And it's going to, the whole thing is about courage, and we're developing courage to really make this thing happen. So that's the name of the new program from Indivisible, is Courage Collectives. And it's really reaching out to all those people that may not want to join a group like Indivisible or 5051, but then they're willing to start their own groups, and they'll get support from Indivisible to become successful in their campaign. So it's growing the coalition by pulling people in, getting them to be courageous, and really understanding it's not that hard. It's really not that hard.
Yeah. What's your, my favorite part, I went to the one in Eau Claire last time around, and just the creativity of the signs is one of my favorite things, of just how much energy and effort people put into it. And in that one, there was a worry about some bad actors. So two questions. What is your favorite thing about this? And are you worried about bad actors in this? And I've heard that as some concern from some folks.
From our experience with the bad actor thing, we're not really anticipating that. We have marshals that really can contain it quite well. We have procedures that will really isolate if that situation does occur, but we're not worried about that. We haven't experienced it, and not leveraged to that point. And your first question was, once again,
what's your favorite part about these when you're actually in the midst of all the planning's done?
Yeah, my favorite part is the energy that's coming out of it, and the feedback that you get only makes your performances better the next time, to engage them better. So we probably had speakers that were a little bit too long the last time. They were really good content, but we need to shorten it up and engage them in a much more active way, and call and response way, and then get them out on a march sooner. They really like to march.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, Dan. I appreciate you talking about what's going to happen in southeastern Wisconsin. I wanted to talk now to Scott Hanna, who's our manager at the Minocqua Brewing Company Madison Tap Room. Scott has been planning for months on the No Kings. As soon as we heard about No Kings, he jumped to figure out what we're going to do within the Minocqua Brewing Company world to celebrate and help folks rally. Scott, what's going on in Madison this Saturday and Sunday?
Well, hey, first I want to start by saying apologies if random people walk behind me. I am at a hotel in downtown Madison because my friends had a random get married at the courthouse thing, so that's why we're here. So apologies if it gets a little weird behind me. But on Saturday, we're doing the same thing we did back in June. We opened early for sign making, which has been a thing before I took over the tap room. So we'll have all the supplies to make your signs and take down to the rally. We always have something going on during the middle of that event anyway, and this actually happens to be the Saturday that we have our Bluegrass Jam. So, if you're a picker, if you can't handle the crowds, you can't handle, the walking, come on down. We're also going to do a little postcarding during that as well. Then we're going to have a little after party because, look, after a long day of protesting, you got to let loose a little bit. And then Kirk and I had been planning a beer release party for the 19th anyway. And we just decided to make it a big parking lot party. So on the 19th, we have 3 bands. It's from 12 to 5. Our opening band is called Brass Knuckles Quintet. So just kind of a chill, open vibe. Next band is Soul Call. They're doing blues, soul. And then we have Tani Diakiti and the Afro Funk Stars playing after that from 3:30 to 5. And they are a Madison favorite. High energy, world music is the best way I can describe them. And then tickets are only $15 for the concert. And then for $20 more, you can get a, quote, VIP pass. VIP pass just means we are not going to charge you for alcohol, and we'll give you a little swag bag on top of that. And yeah, since it was already a protest weekend, we just decided to make a real big party out of it. So yeah, we got that going on this weekend, and would love to have as many people who can make it show up.
So Ben or Patty, what are you guys doing for No Kings this weekend?
So in Northeast Wisconsin, for anybody who's listening, we're going to have our own protest at Houdini Plaza, right in the heart of downtown Appleton. We're expecting a handful of people to be showing up down there. As I said to the alderperson, we haven't had the day in, day out, full frontal approach here to what ICE is or the threats from a lot of these people. But nevertheless, we're still going to get out there and get their voices heard. And here's the kicker. A couple MAGA listeners who listen to my show are going to be there as well on the same side. So people are waking up to what's going on. That should be exciting for everyone.
We're hearing some of that similar sentiment here in the Chicagoland area. I will be with the Elk Grove Village Township. They have an event coming up. I'll be speaking, actually. It's a rally and mutual aid event. So we're collecting items for people who need it in the community, especially now with the government shutdown. People need it more than ever. We'll have Congresswoman Delia Ramirez. We'll also have a tailgate event where we'll have vendors and folks collecting items from diapers to clothing and food. So we'll be doing that in Arlington Heights at the Recreation Park at 3 p.m.
All right. Well, thanks so much. This last segment. We have to be able to protest with light hearts as opposed to heavy hearts, and that's what we need to do this weekend. We need to remember our humanity in the face of inhumanity that's coming against us in so many of our cities. So thank you, Dan. Thank you, Scott, for talking to us about how we lift up this weekend. And then thanks to Patti Vasquez, Ben Comino, Senator Chris Larson, and Amy for helping us. This is the Up North podcast, and we will be seeing you next week. I appreciate all of you paying attention and staying tuned. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. That's my favorite episode yet. Good job, everybody. And we'll wrap it up. We've got 20 seconds here. Thank you, everyone. And go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. We want to thank Source Solar. Go to source.solar and support our sponsors who are making the show possible. Make an appointment with Peter Sorellis to get some solar panels possibly on your house. And Pride Coffee Roasters. Go to PrideCoffeeRoasters.com. Drive home 10 for your discount. Good night, Lady B. Love you. Bye, everyone.
Progressive knows road trips without your pet can be tough.
Hi, this is Next Stop Dog Boarding.
Hi, it's Scott again. How's Squeaks doing? You can tell if he's stressed by his eyebrows. Oh, and his breathing should sound like this.